The fighting genre of video games is easily one of my favorites. As a kid, it was cool to mash the characters together to see who would win in a fight, like an advanced version of playing with action figures. And now as an adult, I enjoy the satisfying rush of pulling off a cool combo to get the big funny number damage. And one thing that makes a fighting game is its roster of playable characters. Whether you pick your main character based on who is the highest tier, who fits your playstyle the best, or which one you'd be the most okay with them stepping on you, your fighting game needs to have a cast that are all unique in playstyle and character. But sometimes, you just do something a little different and include a guest character. For the unaware, this essentially means an existing character not from the franchise the game is based in. Fighting games aren't the only genre of games to do this, but with how character-focused these games are, it's exciting to see a character from another world interact with all your favorites. So today, I would like to go over the history of guest characters in fighting games. Now, bear in mind, today we aren't talking about dedicated crossover fighting games. This means no Marvel vs. Capcom, no BlazBlue Cross Tag, and Street Fighter Cross Tekken. I mean, actually there are two characters in that I do want to discuss, so we'll keep that on the back burner for now. But let's just hop into the main meat of the video.
Get ready for the next battle.
One franchise basically known for its large amount of third-party characters these days is Mortal Kombat. I imagine that the developers of the franchise being owned by a major corporate overlord makes it quite easy to get these crazy crossovers off the ground, and often in MK communities you will see guest DLC be discussed even more than actual series staple characters, because with this franchise, as long as said franchise isn't for kids, the sky is basically the limit. The first MK game to include guest fighters was Mortal Kombat, the 2011 reboot. I mean, most people call it Mortal Kombat 2011 or Mortal Kombat 9 for clarity. I tend to be in the Mortal Kombat 9 camp, so anyway, MK9 dropped the surprise inclusion of Freddy Krueger from Nightmare on Elm Street. He falls into a category that MK tends to dip its toes in a lot, being horror monsters, and would set the precedent for most third parties going forward. However, he wasn't the only third-party character in this game. If you owned the PlayStation version of Mortal Kombat, you also got Kratos from God of War, and while he fits Mortal Kombat's gory, violent antics perfectly, because he was PS3 exclusive, he was banned from tournament play completely, so hey, that kinda sucks. Mortal Kombat X, or Mortal Kombat 10 if you want to be a smartass about it, stepped up to the plate with a roster of third parties of its own. Since MK9 had Freddy, it was only natural that the sequel instead went with his polar opposite, Jason Voorhees. It would have been cool to see these two in the same game together so we could have them fight, but it's whatever, because this game gave us another iconic monster rivalry in Alien vs. Predator. Why is it called the Alien, by the way? I mean, I've never watched the Alien films, but aren't these things called xenomorphs?
Boy, I really hope somebody got fired for that blunder.
Mortal Kombat X would close out its third-party roster with Leatherface of Texas Chainsaw Massacre fame. And so, we move on to the MK game of all time, Mortal Kombat 11. Mortal Kombat 11 had no guest characters at launch, but it very quickly introduced its first in the funny man from the Arkham Asylum subreddit, who did basically what you'd expect. He was quickly followed by Spawn and the Terminator. Now, I'm not going to pretend I know anything about Spawn, but I found his interactions in this game to be pretty funny, so hey, that was a fun thing.
I'm the ghost that goes bang in the night.
And the Terminator, I assume, was added because of that new Terminator film that was coming out around the time, and that's all I really have to say about that. When Mortal Kombat 11's Aftermath DLC was released, they also added RoboCop to the roster, and then Combat Pack 2 would add Rambo to the mix. And so we reach Mortal Kombat 1, which again had no characters on launch that were guest characters, but the first Combat Pack is carrying with it 3 crossovers: Omni-Man from Invincible, Homelander from The Boys, and
John Cena!
While Homelander is yet to come out at time of recording, I'm interested to see how they differentiate his moveset from Omni-Man, as they are both evil Superman characters with similar powers. I'm also interested to see what characters a Combat Pack 2 would bring to the table, but for now, this is where Mortal Kombat's guest character journey ends.
Get ready for the next battle.
Tekken, a franchise beloved to many, despite the fact it's gotten itself in some hot war recently. But that's not what we're here to talk about, so we're moving on. Now, Tekken's not a series that's particularly known for having a strong third-party roster. It's always shared the character Yoshimitsu with Soulcalibur, but that's a bit of a weird case. But Tekken 7 specifically had a lot of third-party fighters filling out its roster. The first guest character to be added to Tekken 7 was Akuma from Street Fighter, which, you know, makes enough sense. This isn't the first time these two IPs have crossed over, but why the hell is he a plot-relevant character in the story mode? This feels like such a weird choice, but you know, I kinda don't hate it. It makes me think about Dante in Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne and how he was kinda just there in the plot of the game to show up and beat your ass a couple times. And I think more games should dare to do things like this. Imagine you're playing the newest Yakuza game and then Sonic the Hedgehog just kinda shows up unannounced in a sub-story. But I digress. The game would then also go on to add Noctis from Final Fantasy XV and, Negan from The Walking Dead. You know what? Sure, why the hell not? It's not necessarily a bad choice, but it's like, imagine if the next Guilty Gear Strive character was like fucking Walter White or something, because that brings the exact same kind of energy that this roster pick did. And at the time of writing, Tekken 8 is entirely first-party characters, and well, there isn't anything wrong with that. I think a lot of people are interested to see if we do end up getting one. Common request is Kiryu from the Yakuza games, but the creator of Yakuza has said that he's never been a fan of this idea, as he'd never want Kiryu to hit a woman. And while, I mean, it's not like the women in Tekken are completely defenseless innocent maidens or anything, but you know what, I can still respect the choice. Me personally though, I think some cool ideas for guest characters could be Final Fantasy's Tifa Lockhart. If we can't have Kiryu, maybe Ichiban could be pretty neat. Fucking William Butcher from The Boys. He just pulls up to Kazuya Mishima like, "You're right there, cunt, I'm gonna fucking kill you. I'll fucking shove a C4 up your ass." But anyway, let's move on to our next series.
Get ready for the next battle.
Melty Blood, for the unaware, is a fighting game spin-off of Type Moon's urban fantasy vampire visual novel Tsukihime. Now, I've not read Tsukihime, mind you, so I don't know anything about the story. All I know is that this maid girl is really funny, and she could be a wanted war criminal for all I know, but I don't care, I'd fucking die for her. But I digress. This series has dabbled in its own fair share of crossover fighters from other Type Moon works, starting in Melty Blood Actress again with Ryogi Shiki and Aoko Aozaki, the protagonist characters from two other Type Moon works, The Garden of Sinners and The Witch on the Holy Night respectively. But this wouldn't be the end of Melty Blood's guest characters. Melty Blood's newest title, Melty Blood Type Lumina, would play its cards close to its chest with the roster, and on launch day, when people went to choose a character, they were met with a nice little surprise. That an obscure character from one of Type Moon's lesser-known works was on the roster. The game had the mascot character from this little niche series called Fate. Artoria Pendragon, or better known as Saber from the Fate series, was a playable character in the roster, just a nice little treat for players to be surprised by. While the on-launch roster was by no means weak, Type Lumina had some notable Tsukihime staples missing, but with the promise of DLC on the way, it was only a matter of time until we got some of them back. Pretty quickly, Aoko was added back into the game, which was neat, and we got a few more Tsukihime characters such as Noelle, Mario, and... You know what? I can't remember, so it's probably not that important. We also got another Fate character in Mash Kirilight, the signature servant of capitalism in its evilest form. I mean, look at her, she's just so adorable, I can feel the urge to spend money already. Take my fucking money. Okay, so another Fate character, it's not a big deal, we still got 2 more DLC slots left. I wonder who they could put there. Satsuki? Len? See? 2 more Fate characters! Wait, what? I said 2 more Fate characters! You know, I don't hate the Fate series. In fact, I would say I'm a casual fan of it. Mostly because being a serious fan of the Fate series requires a master's degree in reading comprehension. But like, if you wanted to make a Fate fighting game, just make a fucking Fate fighting game. I sure know I'd buy it. The game's roster hasn't budged since then, and whether it will or not is still the greatest mystery of our time. A huge balance patch for the game recently got released, which is a clear sign that the game isn't dead, but whether its new content cycle has concluded or not is something that is still yet to be seen.
Get ready for the next battle.
Talking about Street Fighter when it comes to crossover characters feels a tiny bit like cheating, as the main 2 IPs it pulls from for its guest characters are Final Fight and Rival Schools, which are both implied to take place within the same universe as Street Fighter anyway, but we're going to talk about this series anyway. So, Street Fighter 4 would introduce Guy and Cody from Final Fight into the roster, and Cody appears to have gotten himself arrested because he likes violence a little too much, but it's fine because he turns his life around just in time for Street Fighter 5. Street Fighter V would also add rival schools' Akira to become addition to the roster. It's worth noting that Street Fighter's Sakura was also a guest character in rival schools as well. And what about Street Fighter VI? Well, they're about to add Akuma from Tekken 7, which is a pretty cool crossover choice. Okay, but actually, I don't imagine it's a 0% chance we'll see a crossover character in Street Fighter VI, but Street Fighter is not a crossover-heavy fighting game, so only time will tell, really. You know, I imagine in the timeline where the Spy X Family crossover meant that Yor would be added as a playable character instead of just getting a bunch of pricey cosmetic items, society is probably much better off. Me, personally, I'm looking forward to Capcom revealing that Street Fighter is in the same universe as Exoprimal, and they reveal Durban as a playable character. I'm one of the only 12 people who's actually played Exoprimal. None of you know what I'm talking about. On to the next franchise, please!
Get ready for the next battle.
Oh, now, Soulcalibur? This is a really fun one. Soulcalibur has so many guest characters in its long lineage of games. We're going to start the journey at Soulcalibur 2, which was released for all the big consoles of the time, the PS2, the GameCube, and the Xbox, and depending on which version you had, you got a different guest fighter. The PS2 version came with Heihachi from Tekken, who was given a redesign to fit into Soulcalibur's visual style, and the Xbox version came with... oh, hello again, Spawn. But the GameCube version's exclusive is by far the most well-known of the three, being the Giga Chad himself, Link from The Legend of Zelda, which is kinda crazy. Soulcalibur 3 had a bit of a weird one. While they weren't a character in the game's main roster, if you went into the custom character mode, you'd find a unique playstyle and all the necessary pieces to build Cosmos from Xenosaga. Now I know probably about 80% of you are probably thinking, what the actual hell is a Cosmos and what is a Xenosaga? Well, I assume maybe more of you in the audience have heard of Nintendo's Xenoblade Chronicles series, right? Well, Xenoblade is actually a spiritual successor to Xenosaga, which was a trilogy of RPGs on the PS2, and one of the major characters in that series was a robot lady named Cosmos. While I have played the Xenoblade Chronicles games, I'd love to make a video about them someday actually, I've never actually played Xenosaga myself, but Cosmos does make a cameo appearance in Xenoblade 2, so I can still appreciate this guest character. Soulcalibur 4, though, easily has the coolest guest characters, having not one, not two, but 3 characters from the ever-famous Star Wars franchise, including Darth Vader, Yoda, and Starkiller. I repeat, you can play as Darth Vader in a Soulcalibur game. Bad fucking ass! Soulcalibur 5 has Ezio Auditore from Assassin's Creed. I don't know a damn thing about Assassin's Creed, but hey, it's still pretty neat, I guess. And then the newest game in the series, Soulcalibur 6, has Geralt from The Witcher, and 2B from Nier Automata, and Haomaru from Samurai Showdown. And I gotta say, these are all pretty cool guest fighters, and I'd love to see what a Soulcalibur 7 might put out. Me personally, I'd love to see something like Melania from Elden Ring. That would be kick-ass. And now, to close out this video, we have...
Get ready for the next battle.
Under Night In-Birth is probably the reason Sion isn't in Melty Blood, because she's found a new home in this game. I don't know why she's here, but I think it's funny that she exists in this game to promote Melty Blood non-stop. Samurai Showdown has Baiken from Guilty Gear, and I'm never gonna say no to more Baiken, but it also has Warden from For Honor. And surely if you need a character from For Honor to put in Samurai Showdown, you'd pick, you know, one of the samurai? But what do I know? Street Fighter Cross Tekken, aside from having Street Fighter and Tekken characters, also has Pac-Man and Mega Man, but for some weird reason they based Mega Man off the box art of the first game and also made him really old and fat. Considering that Mega Man, for the past forever, has been a dead IP, this felt like a salt in the wound to Mega Man fans at the time. Dead or Alive, due to being made by the same dev team, often has Ninja Gaiden characters in its roster, but Dead or Alive 6 also had Mai Shiranui from King of Fighters as a playable character. Brawlhalla is a platform fighter that I have way too many hours in and spent way too much money on, and Rayman and Ezio Auditore are both playable characters here. And there is also a plethora of crossover skins that turn characters into characters from other media. And when I say no franchise is off the table, I mean no franchise is off the table. Franchises with crossover skins include, but are not limited to, Star Wars, SpongeBob, The Walking Dead, Street Fighter, WWE, and many, many more. So if you're thinking, yeah, I'm enjoying this game and all, but I wish I could play as John Cena! Just throw 10 bones at the game and enjoy.
Just fucking take it.
So yeah, this has been a brief look into the world of guest characters in fighting games. If there's any characters that I missed, cry about it, loser. Be sure to let me know in the comments below, because you get to tell me how stupid I am for forgetting them, and also I get a fat algorithm boost. It's a win-win for the both of us. Also, like the video, subscribe, and don't murder people. It's rude. James.